The exam is in 12 hours. Steve opens the book for the first time. He stares at it for 11 minutes without reading a single word. And then something in Steve's brain switches. Game mode activated. Steve doesn't read. Steve survives. Sticky notes on everything. Everything. 4 books hit the floor. 1 stays. Priorities made. The sacred ritual. Coffee number 1. There it is. Coffee number 4 hits differently at 2 a.m. The notes are flying. Steve cannot read his own handwriting. No time for pretty notes. Ugly notes survive. A 3-second detour, maybe 4 minutes. Steve is back. Steve diagrams the human body. Minecraft edition. Read, close, recall, repeat. Wrong. Again. Read it again. Steve teaches the room. The room learns nothing. Steve learns everything. There it is. That's how it works. The plant is an excellent listener. 1 a.m. Steve is just warming up. Steve goes deep on one topic. Very deep. Maybe too deep. 1 hour, 1 topic, 19 to go. Cut the fat, keep the core. This is triage. Fuel consumption without interrupting the mission. The mess can wait. Steve cannot. Steve has never seen these words in this order before. Skip. Moving on. No shame. Somebody on the internet explained it in 30 seconds. Beautiful. The stupider the memory trick, the better it sticks. It's a terrible song. It will never leave his brain. Perfect. 2:30. The body complains. Steve overrules it. Not yet. Not yet. Cold water protocol activated. Steve negotiates with Steve. 3 topics. Then rest. 3 done. Deal honored. The break is just Steve and the ceiling. 7 minutes. Close enough. Someone else's notes. Devastatingly better than Steve's. Pride is a luxury. Steve has none tonight. The map grows. The brain connects. Wait, these 2 things are related. They've always been related. The web expands. Steve's brain is online. From a distance, it's actually beautiful. Cover, recall, uncover, check. Practice questions. The only real test of what actually stuck. Wrong answer. Find the gap, fill the gap. Small win. Noted. Moving on. The brain is full. 2 minutes, then back. 10 jumping jacks. Brain rebooted. That actually worked. The words are there. The meaning is not arriving. When one subject dies, switch. Momentum over loyalty. Read it out loud. The ears help the brain believe it. 3 a.m. Halfway through the night. Halfway through the material, even. First line. Headers. Last line. Steve extracts. Steve moves. The summary was at the back this whole time. Summary first, details second. Steve has evolved. 100 pages, 10 bullets. Steve keeps only what matters.
The stack grows, each card a chapter conquered. Flash through. What sticks, stays. What doesn't, read again. Stars for the hard ones. They get another round. More stars than expected. Steve expected this. Same thing. 2 different names. 1 concept down, not 2. The brain remembers stories. Steve gives the concept a story. The sillier the story, the harder it sticks. Science. Everything hurts mildly. Steve files this under later. The second coffee is not optional. It is structural. It happens during the sip. always during the sip. Write it before it disappears. Write it now. One insight, three topics now connected. The web tightens. There it is. The 3 a.m. surge. Steve lives for this. When the flow arrives, Steve doesn't question it. He rides it. 5 seconds of appreciation, then back to work. Steve the doctor explains it to the imaginary patient. The imaginary patient understands immediately. If Steve can explain it simply, he knows it deeply. The gap appears. The book fills it. Must know, should know, nice to know. Steve attacks in order. The must knows get everything. The rest waits. Must knows done. No celebration. Next pile. The nice to know pile is on its own tonight. 4 a.m., 6 hours until it begins. The doubt arrives. Steve shows at the door. The list of what's done is longer than Steve realized. Keep going. Steady. Systematic. Steve is a machine after midnight. Oh, he knows this one. It was sleeping. Now it's awake. The familiar ones fly by. Steve banks the time. Slow on the hard ones, fast on the known. Steve finds equilibrium. The yawn arrives. Steve does not negotiate with yawns. Standing lap, reading while moving. The body cooperates better this way, better. Sit, continue, one page, everything that matters. Steve distills the night. He built this in one night, from scratch, one slow pass, seal it, keep it. The last book closes. The studying is done. 5:30. He actually did it. The room is quiet. Steve sits in what he built. 90 minutes of sleep beats 0. Steve knows this. He was already awake. The brain never fully stopped. The cheat sheet first. Before coffee, before anything. The morning coffee hits different when the work is already done. The brain reviews on its own now. Steve just lets it run. 12 hours ago, Steve was buried. Now he walks toward it. One breath. Everything he built last night is still there. He knows this one. He knows this one. The pen moves. The night was worth it. He doesn't know this one, but he knows things connected to it. He works inward. Steady pace. Systematic. The same engine that ran last night. The pencil goes down. It's over. Whatever the result, Steve showed up. Steve tried. That's real. Here's what actually happens in the brain when Steve does this. The stress response isn't always the enemy. Controlled stress sharpens Steve. The hippocampus works over time. Every new connection is being encoded, spaced repetition without knowing it. Each review deeper than the last. Retrieval is the work. Reading is just exposure. Steve retrieves. Even 90 minutes of sleep consolidates memory. The brain files it all during rest. Sleep didn't erase the work. Sleep organized it. The stress of studying burns off. What remains is sharp, focused calm. Steve built multiple paths to every answer. Stories, songs, diagrams. The more paths, the easier the recall. Something changed in Steve last night. Not just the studying. The chaos was a system. Steve's system. Pressure doesn't create knowledge. It reveals it. Active beats passive. Always. Every single time. Steve knows what he'd change. He'll probably do the same thing next time anyway. It was ridiculous. It worked. Steve is ridiculous. Steve works. Right now, somewhere, another Steve is on chapter 7. Coffee number 3. Fighting the same fight. You're never the only one in the midnight. There's always company in the grind. Last night wasn't just about the exam. Steve practiced learning itself. The real skill isn't knowing the answer. It's thinking when it's hard. Steve has one question for you. Have you ever done this? Steve knows you have. The night before, the panic, the coffee, the somehow it worked. Drop your story below. What subject? What time? How many coffees? What was the subject? What time did you start? Did you pass? We all do it. We all swear we won't again. We all do it again. The night before an exam teaches you something school never will. What you're capable of when you have no choice. You find out what you're made of at 3 a.m. with a textbook and a cold coffee. And then the sun rises, and Steve walks in. And it's time. Whatever happens in that room, Steve showed up. One last second of stillness, then forward, and Steve steps out into whatever comes next. The walk to the exam, the longest and shortest walk of the week. You know this feeling. Steve knows you know. The door closes. Steve is in. Whatever happens now, happens. The books will be there tomorrow. Tonight, Steve sleeps. The sleep of someone who gave everything they had. Steve earned this one. Even in his sleep, there's another exam coming. There always is. Subscribe. Steve says thanks.